This is a video on how I think FIFA and UEFA can go about reforming European World Cup qualifiers to make them less boring, more direct, and sort of getting rid of the dilution of quality. For those of you who are not familiar, all 54 member associations of UEFA are paired into 9 groups of 6. This is usually how it is on every World Cup cycle, particularly this one. And the problem with that is there's a huge gap in quality between the first, second, and third tier teams from the fourth, fifth, and sixth tier, the latter of which usually are bottom dwellers on FIFA's world rankings. You have teams like San Marino, Liechtenstein, and Moldova, Luxembourg, etc. Well, the alternative that I've sort of come up with 2 alternatives, but I did it bearing in mind that Europe is going to have 16 spots in 2026. So I figured it's useless to make an alternative for now, because if FIFA somehow came across this video and they wanted to adopt my idea, which will not happen, they would only be able to do it for 2022. So we might as well just think ahead, because Europe right now is only allowed 13 spots in the World Cup. FIFA wants to expand it to 16. I think that's still too low in my opinion, because if you want to expand the World Cup overall without diluting quality, I think Europe needs to get 6 more spots instead of 3 more, which would mean 19 out of 48. I think that's decent, 19 spots. But it's going to be 16 most likely by the looks of it now. So my proposed reformation for the European qualifying cycle will be based around getting 16 teams there. For a lot of European fans, European qualifying is really frustrating because it's just a long, arduous process where the inevitable happens. All the superpowers qualify, and then maybe you have like the second and third tier teams battle it out for the playoff spot. Once in a while, a fourth tier team makes a good run and challenges for the second spot in the group. But really, other than that, it's very predictable. It's a very predictable region. And one of the problems is, for an example, to use 2018 World Cup qualifying right now in Europe, you have a group like, let's look at Group B. You have Portugal, Switzerland, 2 very good teams. Hungary, a good team. But then you have Latvia, Andorra, and the Faroe Islands. Faroe Islands have improved in recent years, but right off the bat, half the teams in those Group 3 are teams that you should be able to beat without even blinking an eye. And guys, that's 18 points because you're playing them twice, both home and away. You're playing in a group with 5 other teams for a maximum of 30 points from 10 games. More than half of the points available are against those kind of teams. So for all the big names in European soccer, it's really just a matter of how soon they wrap it up, how soon they finish top of their group, qualify directly. And it's really just a battle between the other maybe sometimes if it's a tougher group, 3 more teams in the group that just battle for that playoff spot. And a lot of calls to fix that have been underway. So I came up with 2 different alternatives of how to do that. And I'm just going to jump right in. And remember, this is going to be an alternative based on the 2026 expansion already in mind with 16 teams. So by 2026, Russia will have to participate. Will have to participate in 2022 because they won't be the host nation anymore. So that gives you an odd number of teams. That's 55. 55 member associations of UEFA. What I thought of doing is separate it into rounds. And the alternative number 1 is have the 38 best teams automatically qualify for the second round. You have the bottom 18 teams having to contest the first round. And what you do with those 18 teams, the 18 worst teams in Europe, have them sorted into 6 groups of 3, where they play each other for a total of 4 games. The 6 group winners advance to the next round, along with the 38 other teams. So that's, 45, because I made a mistake, 39. The 39 best would advance. The 6 group winners of the worst teams in Europe advance for 45, and the 3 best runners-up advance along with them. And that way, half of those 18 teams advance. The other 9 are eliminated. They don't get to participate. So the 9 best from those advance, that gets you to 48. 48 is a nice round number. Now, you can do this either one of 2 ways. If European fans of the top teams in the world are insistent that they want to play less games, you can take those 48 teams, divide them up into 12 groups of 4 instead of 6. 12 groups of 4 where everyone just plays each other home and away for a total of, I believe it would be 6 games. So it would be similar to how a World Cup is, a group, but you're playing them twice, both home and away. And what you would do is you would have all 12 group winners qualify, along with the 4 best runners-up. 16 out of those 48 advance. Or you could sort of keep the World Cup qualification in Europe, the group format, similar to the way it is now, and you can take those 48 teams that I said advance from the first round, and you can pair them into 8 groups of 6. Now, 8 groups of 6 is not too far off from what we have now with 9 groups of 6, but with less teams, because 9 teams have already been eliminated from the first round. 8 groups of 6, and what you would do is, if you want to get 16 teams to the World Cup, very simple. The top 2 from each group qualify. The 8 group winners, the 8 group runners-up qualify. Here, everyone will be playing more games. So in 8 groups of 6, if you're in a team with 5 other, if you're in a group with 5 other teams, you're playing them twice, both home and away, for a total of 10 games. So the 8 groups of 6, everyone plays 10 games, whereas the 12 groups of 4, everyone's playing 6 games. So take your pick. I would imagine for fans of countries like Germany, Italy, France, they'd rather just play less games and get it over with. So they would probably opt for the 12 group format with 4 teams. So those are basically the 2 alternatives I have in mind. The first round stays the same. The best 39 teams advance automatically. Bottom 18 played out into groups. Half of those 18 teams advance into the next round. And, like I said, 12 groups of 4 or 8 groups of 6. The one thing they have in common, though, is you would be getting rid of the playoffs, because you would have either the 12 winners and the 4 best runners-up go, or the 8 runners-up, or the 8 winners and the 8 runners-up go. So, but to be honest with you, I made this video just because it was an idea that was given a few weeks back. I don't remember by who on my channel. But if you think about it, and I've done some thinking about this because this is something that I thought needed to happen for a while, but I started to have a change of heart. If the decision was up to me to change Europe's qualifying format, I don't think I would do it. I would leave it the way it is now. Why would I do that? Why would I subject teams like San Marino, Moldova, Andorra, Gibraltar to this kind of torture? Because that's the only way they're going to get better. If you relegate the teams that I just mentioned, as well as other European minnows, down to a first round where they only get to play 1 or 2 games in a playoff, or in my example, which was more generous, they would play 4 games in a group with 3 teams, they're not going to get better. It's just going to be once every 4-year process, play 1 or 2 games. 1 or 2 games. Every 4 years. Out. They're not going to have that exposure to playing teams that are better than them. And you could say that, well, San Marino's been playing against Germany and Italy and France all this time, and they're not any better. And you'd be right. But if you pay close attention to international qualifying, as I do so calculatively, there is improvement. specifically, you've seen teams like the Faroe Islands get a little bit better. You've seen Lithuania get better. You've seen some of the Eastern European countries get better. It's happening. It's been very slow. I've been paying very close attention for the last 10 to 12 years of European qualifying. It's hard. It's very easy to miss, but the improvement is happening. It's happening. Some teams have not improved. It's true, like San Marino and Gibraltar, but it's happening. I've noticed it. And it's going to be a long, grinding process. But if you want to make this sport more competitive, the only way you're going to do that is to expose weaker teams to much tougher competition so that they have no choice but to keep working and flooding resources into the federations to get better. It's one of the reasons why I actually support an Asia-Oceania merge into one federation, because I think those Pacific Island nations need to have their asses kicked for several years to come in order for them to actually start getting better. I think that's what's going to have to happen. I think that's what's going to need to happen. So, and to be honest with you, I came to this conclusion relatively soon. For a long time, I believed Europe's qualifying region needed to be reformed, and I was totally on board with that. But I've changed my mind now because of the reasons that I just gave. I think that it's the only way that they have a chance. They need to get better, and it's going to take years, decades, probably more still, for that to happen. But I'm not willing to doom the worst teams in Europe to an eternal fate of never improving because they only get the chance to play the big dogs once or twice every 4 years. And you know what? If you're tired, if you're a fan of some of the best teams in Europe, or not even second, third, fourth tier teams in Europe, and you don't like having to play against the weakest teams all the time, I mean, I understand that, but still, those are teams you should be expecting to beat. There shouldn't be much complaining because you're most likely going to get 3 points off of them anyway. So just take care of business as usual, and then focus on the harder games in your group, where you compete for a direct spot or a playoff. But for the weakest sides in Europe, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I would not change. I only made this video kind of out of fun and also to explore different possibilities. I have an open mind. I'm willing to change my mind again, but those are just two alternatives I would make if you have to change the format of European qualifying, but I don't think I would do it.